Welcome to yet another very exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, Nigeria Basketball Final 8 wraps up in the city of Port Harcourt. And coming in from tennis, Italian star reclaims world #1 ranking. In football, Abia Warriors sees top spot in the Premier League here in Nigeria. Details of this and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us.
There's an understatement. Ik vraag me af.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and Mike is here.
Thanks for having me this morning. Glad to be here as always.
Okay, let's start. And the Director General of the National Institute of Sports, Comrade Philip Shaibu, has, of course, commemorated with the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria at the weekend after going through the 60th anniversary of the association. He identified political will as a major obstacle of Nigerian general sports development. Mike, at this Diamond League anniversary, sports writers, of course, put together a lot of dignitaries and, of course, stakeholders in sport. One of them was the former Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, who described political will as a leader's vision, courage, and consistency to make tough but very necessary decisions for long-term national development. He believes that this has been lacking in the past in sports here in Nigeria.
I think partially it might be right saying that political will seems to be the clog in the wheel of Nigerian sports progress. Partially, I will agree with him, but I think the major bane and the setback that we've had in the area of sport has been that of corruption per se, because if you have the political will and there are some persons within the system that are not pure to align themselves with such political will, then the aim of that political will be defeated. So for me, I think the major bane of lack of progress or development that we've seen in sports over the course of the year in Nigeria, I think I would narrow that majorly to corruption. You talk about political will and putting some square peg in round hole, meaning that putting certain persons within the podium of leadership where they have no business at all. This has been some of the major, I think for me, we need to go beyond that personal, sentiment and all of that. This has been the key problem, and that is why we look as though countries like Morocco, South Africa, Egypt are doing better, compared to...
Yeah, talking about political will, I was seated in the economic, in that indoor sports hall of the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja when he delivered that lecture. He talked about political will, and he gave a very classic example of when he was in charge of insurance of Benin as the deputy governor of Edo State, that he inherited an insurance of Benin and Edo Queens that had a cumulative number of about 85 players for the both teams, but they had over 390 staff working for only these 85 players. And, you wonder how nearly 400 persons were working in an organization that had only 85 players. So it needed very tough political will, to ensure that he reduced the staff to barely about 50 or thereabout to run the team. both teams for Edo State. And you talked about corruption. What else? How do you deal with corruption if you do not have the political will to face it head on? And that is exactly what he did. He found a way of transferring nearly 300 or more of the staffers to yet another organization or another parastatal in the Delta State government and in the Edo State government, and ensuring that only those workers that were necessary to run the two football teams were used. This was just in one example. But this spread across all other facets of sports, both in football, basketball, athletics, and all of the federations that you find around. And I think I agree with him that very, very strong political will is necessary. Of course, that will can only come from very competent and passionate personnel as well.
Definitely, you need a very strong, very strong character for you to take up a place of leadership and be able to be that ruthless and tough to take a very strong and drastic decision that may not go well with some persons within the system. But then,
well, with corrupt persons, if you ask me.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the problem, and I believe the high time. Some of our leaders go beyond some of those, fear factor, because I think if you are clean, all right, taking a position of authority, you must, wield a big stick whenever you see that some things are not correct. But
well,
then,
let's continue to look at some of the highlights of his, lecture at the weekend. He talked about the economic potential of sports, noting that the global industries estimated over 500 billion US dollar, and of its capacity to create jobs, boost tourism, and drive manufacturing and media growth. Nearly, like I said, over 500 million US dollar is into sports globally. How much of this over 500 billion US dollars is being tapped, especially in Nigeria here? Mike, do we have a big chunk, or do I have a sizable chunk of this over 500 billion US dollar, revolving around sports in Nigeria?
I do not think so. I do not think that we have them, because we've not been able to, probably comb the areas of sport that would have allowed us to be, a big stakeholder in terms of tapping into this high chunk of money, because our sport is not that, so lucrative where you can say, okay, some potentials have been tapped into that area that would also help us to grow economically. So I think we need to do a lot, because the potentials in sport has not been fully tapped by Nigeria. And the reason why you look as though our sports, has been struggling in the last 5, 7, 8 years down the line. And if you don't really take an intentional plan towards developing this, there's no way you can enjoy the benefit that is accrued from
You
sport.
talked about Morocco earlier. Morocco in Africa in the last 20 years, 2 decades now, have been very intentional about sports development of the country. They've ensured that they first started with infrastructure, built top-class infrastructure, and now they've moved past infrastructure. While they were doing that, they were trying to ensure that stars were discovered, athletes were discovered, football players were discovered and honed properly. And right now, across the world, Morocco is looking like the next destination in sports, because they are hosting major tournaments. Why? Because they have the infrastructure, and of course their teams are beginning to come to the limelight. In football, the Moroccan national team was in the semi-final of the last World Cup, and that was the very first time an African team would get that far. And now they are saying they want to win the World Cup. Beyond that, we've seen them host several tournaments, especially in Africa, not just in football, in other sports as well, because they have been very intentional about developing their facilities in the last 2 decades or thereabout. Why are the other African countries not taking the example of Morocco? I'm not even talking about the other European or South American or Asian countries, but this is in Africa. Morocco has been very intentional, and the results are beginning to show on multiple fronts.
The reason why some other African countries are not taking a cue from what Morocco is doing is that probably they see sport as a recreational a business to them, whereas sport has grown beyond recreational activity to money spinning venture. And if you don't take such deliberate and intentional plan towards growing your facilities, then there's no way you can move forward and, of course, tap into the rich financial potentials that has to do with sport. First off, if you don't have proper facilities on ground, there's no way you can attract any major championship. Just like you use Morocco as a case study. Morocco, first off, it was intentional, 10 years plan to, start rebuilding their sporting infrastructure, and they kick-started with, infrastructural development, and that is why you can beat your chest and say that Morocco presently, they houses one of the best, facilities in terms of sport in Africa and, of course, the world, because you've seen them host major competition. The last World Cup, they got to the semi-final. They also hosted the Women African Cup of Nations, and they will be hosting the next edition. Next year, they are hosting the Cup of Nations. Then again, you see their teams also doing pretty well. So in a state where you have about 4-5 standard stadium, you have the luxury of time, and you can easily attract favor from any major sporting organization to say, okay, we'll give you the nod to host such facility. And you are hosting such activities. It means that people from all over the world must troop into Morocco, and they are going to definitely, sleep, lodge, and buy one or two. So I think for me, it's about intentional plan by other African countries to do the right thing.
Very intentional, and of course, results are beginning to show on multiple fronts, hosting on major facilities, boosting the economy of Morocco alongside as well. I think we really, as a country, Nigeria, emulate the Moroccan example in sports development. Meanwhile, we'll go across now to handball, where the newly elected president of the Handball Federation of Nigeria, Jibril Saidu Orji, has pledged to run an administration anchored on transparency, accountability, and discipline, declaring that there will be no room for sharp practices under his leadership. There have been multiple elections in the various federations here in Nigeria, and handball is one of them. We are having the president of the federation, newly elected president of the federation, speaking very tough there. Is this possible in handball? Handball used to be one of the sports that brought us glory, especially in female handball in the past, but of recent, we've not had any much from Handball Federation of Nigeria in terms of local and international competitions.
I think we talked about political will to drive every key areas of sport. Then I think you need to have that political will before you can be able to, of course, achieve all of this, his vision of trying to sanitize the system, and ending sharp practices, which is also the corruption that we talked about. So all of these things are tied together. The political will, then you talk about, your strong stand against, corruption. First off, you must have that big face. You must not, fear anyone. And before you could take such bold step, then you must be clean, all right? Because if you are not clean, there is no way you can be able to take such a bold step, because as you try to do, others are also, try to open up maybe more of the Pandora's box, trying to wash your own dirty linens outside. So you must have the political will before you can take such a stand.
They expected that the Handball Federation of Nigeria, under the leadership of Orji now, should be in a position to discover young handball players across the grassroots and, of course, hunt them for stardom. There's need to retrain and, of course, to train and retrain the coaches involved in handball here in Nigeria, and as well ensure that the administration of the sports is top-notch. We wish the new leadership of the Handball Federation here in Nigeria the very best. Meanwhile, from handball, we'll go to volleyball now. Mike, the VIP Spikers Volleyball Club of Abuja have been crowned champions of the 2025 National Division 1 League Volleyball, that's in the female category, after a very impressive unbeaten run that saw them dominate both phases of the competition in Abia at the weekend.
I think it was a clear dominance, winning 20 of their game, gaining about 50-something points. I think
59 points. That's for massive.
Very impeccable record that they've kept, and I think for me they truly deserve, to be top. And of course, you see most of the key individual awards. It is there are players that as well won some of those individual awards. I think for me, they are doing pretty well, and I see them, building up on that come next season.
Well, we say congratulations to the VIP Spikers. They will now have to represent Nigeria at the Continental Tournament. Speaking after the victory, team manager of his squad, Abiodun Suraj, did praise players led by Chilota Movelos, captain for the team, for very clear work there. Every member of that squad looks very determined, going 20 matches unbeaten.
Definitely, and the reason why most of their players want some of the individual award, like I've stated, I think for me they deserve praises because it takes determination and doggedness for those players, of course, to go out there and give their best despite some of the challenges coming up against some other strong team. But then they were able to hold their own to, of course, keep such a clean record. Without losing a single game in the 20 that they played. I think it shows that team unity, it shows cohesion, and this is where we can look up to pick some of the best hands in the system and see how to probably continue to cater and take care of them.
Well, now let's go to tennis, and in talking about tennis, table tennis, Yannick Sinner has beaten Felix Auger-Aliassime to win his very first Paris Masters title and reclaim the world #1 ranking from rival Carlos Alcaraz. Mike, it was 6-4. It looks like the Italian was going to go down, but he found a way to come back in the second set, 7-6, and did win 7-4 to win the Canadian Aliassime in the very strong 1,000-point Paris Masters.
Yeah, I think there was always one driving force for him, all right, whenever he was done. You take a look at the fact that, that with a win in that very competition, he was going to, of course, topple Carlos Alcaraz, as the world #1. I think for me, that was the major drive that I saw him, brace up to the occasion because...
Talk about toppling Alcaraz. He needed 1,000, he needed just 250 points. But winning the Paris Masters has 1,000 points. So he now has more points than Carlos Alcaraz at the world #2, now turned to, and of course, to reclaim his #1 spot. Do you think this will be a deal-dolly fair between both of them? Win one, take one? Because we know Carlos, it looks like the man who do not get to lose at the Grand Slams. And of course, Grand Slam has its own multiple points, 2,000 points. So with just 250 points advantage now, if Carlos comes back to win the next Grand Slam in January, that's the Australian Open, then it will be Carlos back to #1 spot, and maybe Yannick Sinner returning to #2, if not 3.
Yeah, definitely. The point disparity is not that much, 250 points, right? That is why Yannick Sinner is currently topping. But then the reason is very simple. Carlos Alcaraz early exit at the 1,000 Masters Open actually cost him this particular one because he was knocked out of the competition very early. And that was why Yannick Sinner had to seize that opportunity to, of course, gain that point, to topple him. So I think in the next game, it's going to be a very keenly contested one because Yannick Sinner will want to remain as the world #1, all right, come January US Open, while Carlos Alcaraz, having lost his #1 ranking to Yannick Sinner, will also be bidding to outsmart Yannick Sinner and head back to the world #1. So I think for me, these are some of the indices that will make it very exciting talking about the US Open come next year, because anyone that will get to win it, then it's assured of world #1 position. So it promises to be an intriguing one, an interesting one in January to see.
Interesting days ahead in male tennis across the world. But now let's look at what the females are doing still in tennis. World #1 Aryna Sabalenka and defending champion Coco Gauff both experienced very contrasting fortunes with their serves at the WTA finals. While we saw the US Open champion Sabalenka hit 11 aces in a crushing 6-3, 6-1 victory over Italian Jasmine Polini in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the Belarusian, who secured the year-end #1 ranking earlier in the week, won only 66%. Aryna Sabalenka, no one can stop her from #1 status.
Definitely, she's been very consistent. So far, so good. I think she's having the best, form of her career, especially for this 2025 season. I think she's been doing something great. It can only take an exceptional player with much determination to, of course, dethrone her from the world #1. If not, I tell you, she might just sit there for a very long time.
Coco Golf, what's happening to her? She wins one and loses the next.
According to Coco Golf have not shown sign of consistency for this year running. It's either she wins one and loses the next. She has not been very stable. And I think if she truly wants to compete against the big names in the system, then she must show consistency.
Coco Golf needs to show consistency in her tennis because she's not getting it right. She wins once and gets the second. And at her age, the American really needs to be consistent to show that, yes, she deserves of all of the accolades that she's had in the recent. We'd like to take a break now. When we return from the break, there will be more to come, especially in football, where Rivers United digs deep after losing and drawing games in the Premier League. But they bounce back at the weekend to take all 3 points against their opponent. Let's look across to Europe as well in football, where Victor Osimhen continues to be in the news, and Arsenal looks to extend their lead on the top of Premier League table in England. A lot more to come on our program Sports Talk this hour. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here, and Mike is still around. Together, we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. We told you how earlier political will has been advocated as what is needed to ensure that sports development here in Nigeria, according to Director General of the National Institute of Sports, Philip Shaibu. Now, let's look at basketball, Mike. The Nigerian Premier Basketball League Final 8 was concluded last night at the basketball stadium here in Port Harcourt with Rivers Hoopers, Legend, Boko City Chiefs, and Nigerian Customs securing their spots in the Final 4. After this Super 8, there will be a Final 4. Lagos Legends, Rivers Hoopers, and of course the Boko Chiefs there getting to the Final 4. Yeah, history of the tournament so far?
I think it's been very, very competitive. I think it's a very good organization that Rivers State has been able to put up, hosting the final 8 of the Nigerian Premier Basketball League right here. It's been good, but then I think the most talked about is the improved team of Lagos Legends that have remained unbeaten so far. They were the only team alongside Rivers Hoopers before they had to stain the unbeaten record of Rivers Hoopers in March day 5, where they narrowly defeated the Kingsmen 80 to 79 in a keenly contested encounter in that particular one. So Lagos Legends, they lead the pack of the team that are very formidable so far.
4 teams qualified, and they will have to compete for the top prize as well, for who gets to the Basketball League Africa.
Yeah.
A lot of people are beginning to think now that with the performance of the Lagos Legends, Rivers Super's dream of getting that sole ticket may not come to pass, but they will return back to the same basketball stadium in Port Harcourt for the Final 4.
I think that is where Rivers Hoopers will truly get to test their mettle against very
there's Boko Chief, there is the Customs as well.
Yeah. So for Boko City Chief, I think last season they did a little bit good, doing some improvement. Boko City Chiefs alongside the Nile University, but for this year's edition, Nile University were very disappointing. Boko City Chief is another team that you can write off. They can, of course, spring some surprises. But for Nigerian Custom, I think their inconsistency makes me to have a bit of doubt about what they bring to the table in the last 4. But then I think primarily the last 4, the final winner should be Lagos Legend or probably Rivers Hoopers. These are the 2 teams that for me I'm very keen of their strength and success so far this season. We'll just see how the Final 4 is going to pan out, but then I can say that these are the 4 best teams during the Super 8 that we've seen, and they will be going up against each other, where the ticket for the Basketball African League is the most supreme for any team that get to win this very one. And they know the financial incentive that they will attract to themselves and to the club if they truly get that Basketball African League, which for me, I think that is what is very, very important. And for Rivers Hoopers, I will like them to win it, all right, so that they get back the ticket to go for yet the Basketball African League and build on the experience that they've garnered in the last 2 editions which they attended.
Boko Chiefs narrowly defeated Hoopers and Reeds 63 to 62, just 1-point win, and to qualify for the semi-final. Of course, in that semi-final fixture, to qualify for the Final 4, we saw Michael Orehi scoring 16 points in that one. While for the Custom, they sealed their last semi-final ticket by beating Kano Pillars 70 to 64. And of course, many thanks to their captain David Godwin's 22 points on the night. Lagos Legends continue to dominate because in the semi-final, they edged Nile University 93 to 63. That's a whooping 30 points difference. But 20 of the points were scored by their captain Abba. Rivers Hoopers closed the 3rd round with an 83 to 69 win over Kwara Falcons last night in a very fashionable manner. We saw Kevin Amayo, who missed Rivers Hoopers loss to Lagos Legends due to fitness concern, dropped 17 points in that victory over Kwara Falcons in a game where there was 5 assists as well as 5 rebounds for Amayo. Amayo last night, I saw him, he wasn't really fit, but he came and made the whole difference for the team. And the fans are beginning to say, if he had been in that Lagos Legends fixture, he would have done a lot better for his team, and maybe they wouldn't have lost.
Yeah, definitely. We know what Mayo brings to the squad whenever he's fit, and I think his absence in that game against Lagos Legend was, evident on the reason why Lagos Legend had to defeat them, even though he wasn't that 100% fit in their last game. But then, at least he was still able to show some of those, killer instincts of a complete point guard out there by doing the needful. So for me, I think we hope to, see him 100% fit in the final, in the Super 4, and see how to contribute his own quota to the Kingsmen.
Lagos Legend, Boko Chief, Customs, and we will have to contend with Rivers Hoopers in the Final 4 of the 2024-2025 Basketball League here in Nigeria, and let's hope that when this one comes up in the next few weeks and days, we will see them in action. That Final 4 is expected on the 20th to the 24th of November this year at the same basketball stadium in Port Harcourt. Winner of the Super 4 will represent Nigeria at the Basketball League Africa. Can Rivers Hoopers get back, immediately after losing out at the very crucial stage last time around? Our fingers are crossed on it. I'm very sure that in a subsequent edition of our program, we'll be getting you to talk to some of the big wigs that saw what happened at the basketball stadium, and maybe officials of Rivers Hoopers as well. Now, let's quickly go to football. We're running a little bit out of time. The Premier League was in action at the weekend. I think that was match day 11. Barrow FC was forced to a goalless draw by Wiki Tourist. Bayelsa United continued to be very dominant at home. They beat Plateau United by 2-1. Academy Warriors and Rangers International had a goalless draw. Enyimba International beat Kano Pillars by 2-0. Ultimatum in this result, you want to say, Kingsley, Mike?
Definitely for Kano Pillars, because it hasn't been an easy one to the start of life in the new Nigerian Premier Football.
No, I should be thinking about Enyimba International. The management gave out too much ultimatum to both the players and of course the officials as well.
Definitely, I think they've been able to, of course, start in to stay alive within the club, because Kano Pillars were another team that is very sinking presently as we speak. So coming up against Enyimba that have been given too much ultimatum to redeem themselves, they just had to go all out to get a job done, which they did against Kano Pillars. Kano Pillars is not the kind of team that you want to say, okay, let them test their strength against Enyimba, because as it is right now, they are down. But then for talking about this Enyimba side, Enyimba, they finished very poor last season. It was expected that this season they should be fighting for the league title, though they have not started the season very well. It was very shaky, no doubt about that. But then, with what I've seen of Enyimba in this their last game, if they can build build up on that very fine form, then maybe Enyimba should be among the team that will finish within the continental spot. I don't know whether because of the too much ultimatum that they were given that made them to fight so hard and play more of a coherent football that got them all 3 points. But then I can guarantee that if they perform that same way they did over the weekend, then their chances of finishing very strong is very high.
One team that finished strong at the weekend was Ikorodu City. They beat Kun Khalifa by 2-0. Niger Tornadoes player at home lost to Abia Warriors 2-1. This result means a lot to Abia Warriors, Mike.
Definitely. They have now, leapfrog Nasarawa United to the league table as we speak right now. Though they've played one more game more than Nasarawa United. They've played 11 games and they have 21 points, while Nasarawa United have played 10 games and has 19 points. So for me, for Abia Warriors, I think they are the team as well to watch out for. Don't forget, last season they qualified for the CAF competition as well. So I believe they are going to build on that come this season as well. Nasarawa
United they somehow slipped at the top of the league table, courtesy of that loss to Rivers United at the Ajokia Messigman Stadium last night. What do you see of that? Nasarawa United, did they capitulate, or Rivers United were better, having drawn at home and lost as well?
Yeah, I think that for me give Rivers United that extra fight to push out, because their last game before they went for the CAF Champions League away, they lost at home to Bayelsa United, went away against Red Bull to lose that game as well, came back and they were able to win their last game against the same Red Bull, 3-1. So I think that probably propel them to go out of their comfort zone to fight hard and see how to get all 3 points against Nasarawa United.
Comfort zone, I wasn't very comfortable for Shooting Stars of Ibadan, because playing at Ibadan, the Katsina United forced them to a 1-1 draw. It wasn't comfortable as well for Insurance of Benin at the Ogbe Stadium, because Warri Wolves forced them to a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, Kwara United were 3-1 better than Remo Stars in the Premier League here in Nigeria. Let's quickly now go to Europe, where there were a lot of football action as well at the weekend. It looks like no team will be able to stop Arsenal so far for this year. They continue to dominate and, of course, find a way to win, not just winning, but as well keeping clean sheets. Mike?
Yeah, I think the only team that can stop Arsenal is Arsenal. All right, but then they must be very wary of the citizens, talking about Manchester City, because Manchester City seems to gradually crawling back into the contention. They are currently seated second position, just 6 points adrift of Arsenal. And when you have a team like Manchester City chasing you at the back, then you need not to sleep on your horse. You need to be very, very careful, because the slip can just take Arsenal off the top spot. But then, in all, it's been fine and good for Arsenal so far this season, and I just see them going far. Like I said, the Arsenal Football Club is the only team that can be able to stop Arsenal this season.
Arsenal beat Burnley at the weekend, away win for Arsenal, 2-0. Meanwhile, we saw Brighton Pumel leads United by 3-0, while Crystal Palace beat Brentford by 2-0 as well. Fulham ensured that Wolves were completely eliminated at home, away 3-0. That one ended. Manchester United played a 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest. A lot of people thought Manchester United had come back, but Nottingham Forest found a way to do some reality check with the side from from Manchester.
Yeah, I think for Nottingham Forest, they just had to fight hard. For Manchester United, after taking that first elite, people thought maybe they've really discovered themselves. They were going to make it 4 straight wins, but then surprising, Nottingham Forest struck back with a quick succession to make it a 2-1. Manchester United even had to beg for.
Ahmad was their savior there?
Definitely. Ahmad was the man that was able to give them, just 1 point. But then I think for Nottingham Forest, they just need to keep fighting, keep believing after we've seen them change coaches so far this season.
Manchester United didn't win 2. Everybody thought they could do it 3 on the bounce, but it didn't work out. Liverpool FC as well, after losing 4 straight games, seem to have bounced back, courtesy of that 2-0 win over Aston Villa. You want to think that the goalkeeper for Aston Villa could be held responsible for what happened to them?
But then, in the game of football, it's always a collective, game.
Was that a pass to Mohamed Salah?
Yeah. You can't just single out one player for blame, because we've seen him make some fine saves as well, in that particular game. So these things are bound in the game of football. Sometimes some of those mistakes just happens. It happens. He's one of the best keeper that we have presently in the English Premier League. Talking about Martinez, but then it is what it is. It is football, and Liverpool had to wake up from their slumber after managing to win just 1 in their last 7 games. All right, so I think for me, you can just only build on from there and see what Onslaught brings to the table this season. Talking
about bringing to the table, Liverpool FC, we've seen the 250 goal for the side scored by Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, I think the Egyptian demigod have been able to cement himself among the Premier League elites, and I can tell you for certainty that after he leaves the English Premier League, he will certainly be inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame because of his achievements and his contribution to the growth of English Premier Football League so far.
Overall, 250 goals for Liverpool FC's player Mohamed Salah from Egypt, Africa. Talking about aftermath of the weekend results in the Premiership in England, Wolverhampton Wanderers have had their head coach Victor Pereira sacked. This was expected. Wolves are presently in the relegation zone after 10 Premier League games.
Definitely, I think that changes, was needed as fast as possible to see if they can be able to remedy their season and try to see if they can still afloat the English Premier League. Because out of 10 games played so far, they've just managed 2 points out of 10 games, losing 8, drawing 2, and that is a very terrible record for a team that hopes to stay alive in the English Premier League at the end of this season. So that changes was needed as quick as possible. Their under-21 coach and the under-18 has been also mandated to take charge of the team until they find a substantial replacement. Quickly,
there were 2 matches last night in the Premiership in England. West Ham beat Newcastle by 3-1. Did you expect to see that result?
Not at all. Not at all.
Newcastle beaten by West Ham?
And of course, Newcastle took the first lead. We thought maybe it was going to be go galore, but then they capitulated and West Ham came back to punish them.
Bournemouth lost their second place position courtesy of 3-1 beating by Manchester City.
Definitely. For Manchester City, I think they are gradually gaining back their mojo. Like I said, other teams need to be very wary rather about the citizens.
Meanwhile, there were actions in the... But just before we look at the Spanish La Liga, Erling Haaland can't stop scoring for Manchester City.
Definitely. He's a beast and a goal poacher, very clinical. Just give him the ball and then forget about the rest. You saw the first goal was fantastic, glorious, and that header from Bernardo Silva to set him up, and of course he went on to finish quick counter. The second goal was more like a similar goal as well when he was released, and he was able to, of course, beat the keeper to score the second goal. He's one man that you can't, talk about the English Premier League top scorers for the season without also mentioning him.
Goals galore in the La Liga in Spain. We saw Villarreal beat Real Vallecano by 4-0. It was the same scoreline in the encounter between Real Madrid and Valencia. Real Madrid looking very strong in the last few weeks.
Definitely. I think they've continued to maintain their 5-point lead over their bitter rival Barcelona, who also won their game convincingly.
Barcelona beat Elche by 3-1.
Yeah, so I think for me it's a good one. Let's see if Madrid can keep up the pressure and of course win this year's La Liga with their new coach, talking about Xavi Alonso.
Meanwhile, we saw Real Betis beat Real Mallorca by 3-0. Let's quickly look at the Bundesliga. There were some matches there as well. Bayern Munich not letting off the steam.
Yeah, for Bayern Munich, I think it's been an incredible record for...
Beating Leverkusen 3-0.
Leverkusen has not really been the team for this season. They've been up and down and struggling since Xavi Alonso left. But for Bayern Munich, I think they are carving a special niche for themselves. They remain the only club presently in the Europe, whether before or now, to have won 14 straight games without, dropping a point. A fantastic job being done by Vincent Kompany.
Well, Vincent Kompany, nobody expected him to be that strong, but on the scene, he's doing well. He may not be getting it right in the Champions League. But let's see what's happening in the Italian Serie A. AC Milan over Roma, 1-0 ended.
Yeah, very cagey counter it was, but then they find a way to do the needful.
FC Napoli played a goalless draw with Como. It looks like the Arsenal man is getting it right with the average Italian side.
Definitely. For Cesc Fabregas, Como is doing a great job out there after winning their last game, and of course building up on that with the current champion away from home. That was a fantastic result.
In the French League 1, Lille beat Angers by 1-0. Metz beat Nice by 2-0, and Toulouse played a goalless draw. Meanwhile, Brest played a goalless draw with Lyon at home. Paris Saint-Germain, this is a team to watch out for. They prepare very well, especially in the League 1. They beat Nice by 1-0 just ahead of the Champions League encounter this in the next few hours.
Hard-fought encounter it was for them. They had to leave it late, 90 plus something minutes before they had to score the winning goal, and that is the stuff of a champion as they prepare ahead of this midweek UEFA Champions League clash.
Well, that looks like the much we can take on this edition of Sports Talk. There's a lot to come your way on the program. Sports Extra, that'll be at 6 p.m. Nigerian time, and we'll take a comprehensive review of at least the top 5 leagues in Europe, including the Premier League here in Nigeria, just as we give you more to expect, or just say fallouts from the basketball league in Africa here, where massive crowds saw the tournament come to an end. We look forward to another big edition in the next few weeks, and just about 2 weeks or so from now, when the Super 4 will come up. So a lot will get reaction from those who follow up the championship as well. So until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.